being too strict on food choice, which is, I mean, what is every 5 years there's like a new nutritional boogeyman, like demon, like, and everybody, and it makes sense, right? Like, hey, like carbs are bad or this food's bad, right? And so I shouldn't eat it. And if I take it out, and it does work, let's acknowledge like some of that stuff does work for people, right? And at least in the short term. But the problem is in the long term, that's really hard to sustain. And because the thing is like, what if you actually like that food, right? And then you remove it from your diet for a short period of time. And then as soon as you're done with the diet, like can't wait for this diet to be over, you go right back to eating the foods that you had taken out. And oftentimes what normally is like human psychology, right? Like whatever we say we can't have, or we restrict ourselves or make scarce, we want more of it. We want to hoard it, right? And so that's the thing. Like if you're, I'm not saying that like, there's definitely the opposite coin of that. It's like, hey, whatever fits, right? Whatever fits your macros or fix your diet. Like you can eat pizza, donuts, ice cream, whatever. I don't think that that's really the main thing. That's really good either. We want to find like that balance point, right? So we don't want to be super, super strict and restrict a bunch of stuff, unless it makes you sick or you don't like it, right? But we also don't want to say like wanton, just eat whatever you want. It's finding that middle ground, that well-roundedness with your food.
Well, also think about this, right? It's like ultimately in the nutrition and the fitness space, however sexy something is means it's more profitable, right? It's like there is definitely that weird human characteristic where it's like, if we have to suffer, like we want it, right? So it's like, I think like 75 Days Hard is like a perfect example. It's like, why do people end up doing it? Well, fuck, man. I'm not a big proponent of it. Obviously, it's like take rest days and like, it's probably not the fastest track to, having good harmony with food and exercise and stuff. But it's like at the end of the day, it's a challenge. And 75 days later, you feel like a badass because you did this thing you set out to do, right?
And it's appealing, but long term, can it work, right? Yeah.
But like, think about again, it's like how many people are profiting off of whatever it is they're selling you. It's like that's been the tough thing for coaches like you and I is it's like, dude, the sexy stuff that actually works is the stuff that doesn't sell. Like it's not the stuff that's, it's not sexy to be like, oh, hey, you want to like achieve fat loss? Well, like, hey, eat enough protein, eat fruits and vegetables, like move your body, sleep. And like, that's not sexy, but it's like, well, hey, you know how you can achieve massive fat loss, super fast. And it's like, well, over the years, we've seen fat'll make you fat. Like that was the 90s, right? Like God bless all of I wish I'd get an email one day, kind of like the old like commercials where it's like, hey, if you were a victim of eating low fat diets in the fucking 90s, but
you may be entitled to compensation.
Right. But it's like, man, like what was the meme that was circulating recently that it was just like, can we address the fact that was it Special K like made a diet where literally you just ate Special K breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Like, holy shit, right? But it's like, again, it's people want simple. People want it to be very cut and dry. People want to know the rules. And so, why have things like, it was low fat in the 90s and also
low carb,
then it goes low carb. So it's like, the thing is the pendulum always swings because at some point also it's like, well, fuck, man, I haven't, it's like, let's say we're back to like paleo or like low carb stuff. And you're like, damn, but like this was fine and all, but like I miss being able to eat the tortillas, the bread, pasta, all these high carb foods. And so it's like, that's the thing is like, you're always going to see the pendulum, kind of swinging back and forth as well. Because again, it's like, well, people do something. And so that's the thing, right? It's like, we know that when we're dieting, ultimately, if our maintenance calories are, let's say 2,200 calories a day, well, to see fat loss, we have to eat less than that 2,200 calories. Like we have to be in a calorie deficit. And so it's not that any of these special diets, there's no magic bullet here. It's just, well,
they all work the same based on the same principle.
We're getting rid of hyper palatable foods that people probably love and are probably overeating. It's like, again, like keto and intermittent fasting are forever like kind of doing this. And, it's nothing new. Well, it's like, well, intermittent fasting we have a shortened window of eating of which we can eat our
eat
food.
less meals per day, so you eat less calories, right? Yeah.
So same thing, it's like, why does keto work? Well, keto, we define that as we're going to be super high fat and, pretty low carbs. So it's like, well, yeah, if you're somebody that you were eating pizza, you were eating burger and fries,
right.
All these
and you
things.
cut all that out. You just removed these foods that have a lot of calories from your diet. You took them out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's nothing like that would be my number one advice too, is it's like carnivore, I feel like is still this thing where it's just like, hey, don't eat, it literally just
wow,
eat
that blows
meat.
my mind. I don't even know how that,
and we're still here. Like
Liver
we still
King
see
over
it, right? Right. So it's like, I think my biggest advice personally would be like, listen, like whether we're dieting or we're not dieting, the way we're eating ideally really shouldn't look that different other than obviously different portion sizes, right? But it's like, that's why I love always sharing, full day of eatings or just, what meals I'm having and stuff like that is it's like, hey, listen, well, yeah, if I'm eating at maintenance or I'm eating at a calorie surplus because I'm trying to, chase muscle gain and stuff like that. So I just have this abundance of calories. Well, yeah, it's like, I'm just eating more of the foods that I already normally eat. And, reversely, it's like, well, for sure, when dieting, like we're going to switch to stuff that's more, more voluptuous and more, high volume foods. So for example, it's like, well, hey, if you're drinking a protein shake every day, well, during a diet, I would probably try to switch that to actually be meat or something I'm actually eating because it's going to be more filling. But truly, it's like if you put those side by side, they should be fairly similar.
What you're talking about is eating flexibly, which is what we typically, well, you and I at least do, and what we typically recommend. And of course, there's definitely people who don't benefit from that, for whatever reasons that they have. But I think that the main thing is like having some flexibility to swap things out or to change, like again, based on your goals and your preferences. Like the way I think of it is like, what foods do you like eating? Right? How do they support your goals? And do they make you feel good, right? Mentally and physically to eat them, right? So if they make you feel good and they support your goals and you like them, those are things that you probably should eat more often, right? And then it's a spectrum between that and then, hey, foods that you'll maybe love, but they don't really support your goals all that great, or they don't make you feel great physically. Those are foods maybe you should eat like more rarely and in smaller amounts, right? But that doesn't mean that you have to completely just say YOLO or eat them out of your life, right? Like, so I think that's really where it is. And then, having a balance between these things rather than all or nothing, either or.